Geordie Journo's back here at St James's Park, where Newcastle United have beaten Chelsea 4-1. Just me and Jordan here today, no Liam Kennedy, which some of you may be disappointed about, but me and Jordan will be able to get a word in, so a bit of a boost. And Jordan, great afternoon of football here for Newcastle United.
Yeah, a result that I didn't see coming, to be honest. Maybe a Newcastle win, but a 4-1 scoreline is quite incredible. A lot of the talk in the build-up of this game was, Chelsea are in form, Chelsea are back. They weren't back today. Newcastle without 13 senior players today. We've seen that bench at the start, and we're looking at it thinking, after 60 minutes today, Newcastle are going to be dead on the feet. They're going to have no options off the bench to try and impact the game. But actually, the second half for Newcastle, it was a breeze. It was easy. Let's not beat around the bush. It was easy. Well, that's because of how bad Chelsea were, how good Newcastle were. I do think Chelsea today were really underwhelming. I thought they were decent in the first half, but the only threat they ever carried in that game really was on the break. And as I say, after the break, they lost all composure. The 2 goals in 2 minutes as it was to make it 2-1 and 3-1. Reece James then goes and gets himself sent off. It was it really was easy for Newcastle, and you couldn't really ask for a better game, because physically today did Newcastle have to put too much into that? I'd imagine some of them are probably coming off that pitch feeling maybe a little bit fresh in many ways, which is a bonus, because we've obviously got that massive game against PSG on Tuesday, and you'd imagine it'll probably be the same start 11 because they're not going to get many players back. So in terms of today and Tuesday, the turnaround, it might not be as battering and as bruising as it was for the Arsenal and Borussia Dortmund turnaround. It felt like that Arsenal game had taken a lot out of Newcastle. Today, it doesn't feel like that much at all. So no, a massive performance and a massive 3 points. I was looking at the league table there before. Newcastle are only 6 points off top, which is
crazy,
quite incredible. And you can look at the results that they've had this season. The last minute collapse, if you like, against Liverpool here. They then conceded 8 goals at West Ham and Wolves. It's a crazy season, but Newcastle, bar that Bournemouth game, have shown in the face of adversity this season they're a team that always rises to the challenge.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I think they set the tone early on, actually. Early stages, Alexander Isak back in the side scoring, but obvious shout out has to go to Lewis Miley on his first Premier League start at St James's Park. Again, looks at home in the Newcastle midfield. I thought he was probably one of the better players in a very poor Bournemouth performance down at Bournemouth from Newcastle. Yeah. But today showed that maturity, and when he gets the ball edge of the box just behind us there, you're looking and you're thinking shoot. I think some of the crowd even said shoot, and he just head up. It's like, so you'd expect a pass from someone like Bruno, just slips in Alexander Isak trademark, one touch and finish. And I thought after that, actually, Alexander Isak was very quiet, but didn't have to stress himself as the only fit Newcastle striker. So yeah, he went off to a standing ovation later in the game. But Lewis Miley again also went off to a standing ovation, thoroughly deserved. I thought he was brilliant, as was Bruno in the midfield, and shout out as well for Anthony Gordon, who was probably the game changer in the second half, involved in everything Newcastle did well in the second half. After he was energetic in the first half, but didn't really get involved as much.
Yeah, no, I thought you had a quiet first half. I agree. I think you had some promising moments up down that left-hand side, but in terms of overall sort of contributions, was very quiet. But that second half absolutely came to life, shall I say? The assist, what a ball that was from the left-hand side to in swing out with his right foot. Trademark Jamal Lascelles header really attacked that ball, but that goal was made by the assist. And I think about assist Anthony Gordon's produced for Newcastle, that's got to be up there as one of the best for him. It was an incredible cross and a good solo effort as well. I think he'd moved to a striker by that point, hadn't he, by the time he scored that goal, but he still sort of came inside on the left hand side, and a great finish into the bottom corner. So you think about him this season, continues to deliver week in, week out, again pushing on or knocking on that door for the England squad. He can't do much more at the moment. He continues to be consistent, and yeah, as I say, after a difficult opening 6 months at Newcastle United, it looks like now he is a star in the making, already a star. Just, I think Anthony Gordon, what is he, only 22?
Yeah.
Incredible. He's got an incredible amount of room of development he's got. Just a real talent, and I'm sure, as I said previously about Eddie Howe's coaching, I think any player will get better under Eddie Howe, and Anthony Gordon has proved that.
Yeah, I asked Eddie Howe after the game, because it's five goals, 3 assists for Anthony Gordon already this season in just 11 starts. I said, what's the sort of expectation, or how far can Anthony Gordon go in terms of those figures? And Eddie Howe was reluctant to put a number on it, but really impressed. He's been almost like a new signing for Newcastle in many ways this season, after a slow start to his career at Newcastle that first half season, getting his fitness levels up, getting actually in the side. Last season was tough enough for him, but this season, that Euros, he's hit the ground running, and is one of the most important players in Newcastle's side. And on that note, I'll probably go into our star players if we were going to pick our 3.
Yeah.
Anthony Gordon would lead the way for me, just because of his contributions in the second half, where goal, assist, and he gets a player sent off. Really, it was not a lot of contact from Reece James, but just enough, and Anthony Gordon goes down easily, gets the player sent off. So really impressive performance from him. And then I'd probably give a shout out to Lewis Miley as well, of course, who just so mature. Eddie Howe said, because of his sort of physical frame and the way he plays the game, you wouldn't think he's 17 years
Incredible.
old. And it's just been such a blessing almost, that he's been able to step up and actually look the part, because it's one thing handing 17-year-olds Premier League debuts, and Eddie Howe did have that luxury later in the game with Amadou Diallo, Alex Murphy, Michael Ndoueni all coming on, almost like a flex move from the manager when they're 4-1 up. Great to see. But Lewis Miley is going in there, starting games, making an impact, so that's excellent. And then I think third, Miguel Almiron deserves a shout out. He was quietly sort of effective throughout the game and put a great ball for Anthony Gordon. But on his return to the side, Bruno Guimaraes just oozes class and was at the heart of most things Newcastle did well today. Gets his foot on the ball, always looking to make things happen. Everyone knows his quality. It was just a trademark Bruno performance, and Newcastle, it was clear how much they missed him at Bournemouth, because back to his best today, back in the side. In Newcastle weren't quite at the best today, didn't have to be, but they made Chelsea look terrible and absolutely punished them for it, particularly in that second half.
No, I agree with you, your star man. I just want to give a shout out, if I can, to Jamal Lascelles, for example, because I thought he had a really difficult 46 minutes, if you like, because ultimately the free kick that led to Raheem Sterling's goal, the ball was given away by Jamal Lascelles, Kieran Trippier. I think we'll look back, was it a foul by Trippier? I mean, there was probably a little push in the back, but I didn't think it was soft. But anyway, Kieran Trippier was put in that position because Jamal Lascelles had aimlessly give the ball away into the midfield, and then moments after the second half had resumed, I think he gave the ball away again. Who was it? I can't remember the player, but I think it was a shot at goal anyway.
Jackson, potentially, I'm not sure.
Yeah, anyway. So, there's 2 moments there where you think, he's distribution, oh my god, he's actually going to cost Newcastle the yard, but I actually thought by the end he led by example. As I mentioned earlier, a great header. I think that's his first goal in a long time now. I'm trying to think, was it I think last time I remember he scored, I think it was Everton, but it could be in goal after, but it was Everton, and that was actually the sort of the last game he played before coming back in at the starting 11 this season. So I think in many ways, behind the scenes, look, people have the questions about his football and ability, if you like, and what he is as a defender, but I think he rarely does let Newcastle down. There's times when he's not always consistent, and I think we've seen even in games that he's played this season, towards the back end of periods that he's played in terms of consecutive games, he's looked a little bit fatigued and he's lost a bit of concentration, but I can't really fault him. I thought today epitomised what he was all about. He'd had a difficult, say, opening 46 minutes, got the goal, and I thought defensively, apart from giving the ball away a few times, he was actually solid. And as we've spoken about previously with the sort of Sven Botman's absence, Jamal Lascelles is a player that has made his absence feel a little bit less hurtful on this Newcastle team, so a special mention for him. to be fair, I thought everyone across the park today was good. If you want to focus on that player, maybe had an iffy couple of moments was Joe Linton, because I think you agreed, Dom. He was brilliant. He was winning the ball, won loads of tackles, but every time he got the ball and looked for a pass, he just seemed to lack a bit of composure and a little bit of quality. But obviously he was reactive to Thiago Silva's mistake and hammer that ball into the net. I think that's his first goal of the season.
Yeah. It's been a bit stop-start for Joe Linton this season. You said that before, Jordan, and hasn't quite hit the levels that he hit last season. He's had some great performances, don't get me wrong, but over a consistent basis. And today it was an inconsistent performance from him. I thought he was probably Newcastle's worst player in the first half, but was continually winning the ball back, continually trying, never let his head drop, and then gets his reward for the goal. So there was a bit of a U-turn of sorts in our player ratings where we thought Jamal Lascelles, Joe Linton, probably Newcastle's worst players. Not that bad by any means, probably 5-6 out of 10 in the first half, but then they score the goals and help Newcastle win the game ultimately. So yeah, really, really positive across the board, I think, from everyone. Tino Livramento, his first Premier League start for Newcastle at left back, not his natural position, and I thought he sort of quietly went about his business, I thought.
No, I thought, excellent defensively, coming up against difficult opponents. There was a couple of times, I think in that first half, I think you didn't see much of him defensively in the second half, obviously because Newcastle was so on top of Chelsea, but there was times when he won the ball in some really good positions, carried the ball forward. I think that's what he's about. He does that so well. That assist at Manchester United when he won the ball high and then drove forward and obviously put on a play for Miguel Almiron, he's got that in his locker. And look, I think he's a better player at right back, but then you've also got a player on Kieran Trippier there. So for Tino Livramento to come in at left back, because there was a lot of talk in the summer of they've signed Tino Livramento, can he play left back? I don't think he played left back that many times in his career.
No. But
he seems to have found a little bit of a home out there, because he came on there against Bournemouth, and I think he played there in a period against Borussia Dortmund as well, and in those games has been one of Newcastle's best performers. So he's been a really good signing. It's just a shame that, as I say, that they've signed a player for right back when they've already got Kieran Trippier there. But fair play to Tino Livramento, because he's moved over the left hand side and looks every good as a left back that he is a right back as well. So full praise for him. I think, again, you talk about exciting players. Lewis Miley today, you've got Tino Livramento, only 21. He's got bags of ability, and you look at the right backs that have played for England, like your Kyle Walkers, for example. You think about pace and power. Tino Livramento isn't actually that far off, and he's got loads of room to develop as well. So no, a really, really exciting signing. But as I say, I'm trying to go for the team you had now. I don't think you can really pick out any bad performers. I thought they were all decently, more than decent. I thought they were all brilliant today.
Yeah, I don't want to be overly negative, because it has been a great win. I thought Nick Pope's distribution wasn't good today. That's the only negative I can pick, if you're actually putting it on the spot. But did make an excellent save to deny Enzo Fernandez. So played his part in what was a great win for Newcastle. Moving on.
I feel like we need to talk about something positive now, because I was going to suggest talking about injuries. I feel like we need to go into something positive.
Well, we can talk about the bench, which was ridiculous. And comes from the injuries. We'll segue into the injuries after that. But 3 goalkeepers on the bench. We saw Loris Karius come in quite early, and we went, ooh, it's rare to see Loris Karius at St James's Park, if we're being honest. He tends to only show up for the cup games or in the Champions League. So seeing him, we're like, ooh, okay. And then we saw Alex Murphy. Obviously, I haven't seen him before since pre-season, really. So we're like, there's a couple injuries here. But hey, we saw Murphy, Diallo, like I said before, Michael Ndoye, and then even Matt Ritchie and Paul Dummett get on the pitch. So, 5 substitutions. Eddie Howe looks at that bench before the game and goes, "Oh, if I'm making 5 substitutions, something's gone badly wrong." But it was actually the complete opposite. Something went really right. Yeah,
I mean, it was. I think the result, or the scoreline at the time, was just an ideal scenario for him to actually put players on.
It was your question as well, wasn't it?
It was, I actually can't remember what he said to us, so I'm not going to talk about what he said to us. But I mean, you look at the players he had to bring on. He brought on Matt Ritchie. I don't think he started a Premier League game for God knows how long. Obviously came on at Bournemouth last week, but was there anyone on that bench that had started a Premier League game this season? I'm trying to think.
No,
I don't think there
not
is.
a single one. Martin
No.
Dubravka is the only one on that bench who started in the last 2 seasons, and that was down at Chelsea when Nick Pope was injured. So yeah, one start between a 9-man bench, I think.
I know,
it was.
yeah,
It's
it was,
incredible.
yeah. I know it's an incredible situation and just epitomises the
Makes the-
unbelievable
Yeah.
injury situation, and not unbelievable in a good way. Obviously, it's just quite incredible to think about the amount of absentees Newcastle have got, because there wasn't just injuries in that today. Obviously, you've got Sandro Tonali, and you've got a scenario where Lewis Hall is unable to play against his parent club. The list of absentees, I think, in terms of watching Newcastle over the years, I can't remember it ever being this bad.
No.
I really can't. Look, there might be someone out there able to remind us of a time, but I can't
Very
think.
bad period under Glenn Roeder, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But certainly in recent years, in terms of the last decade or so, there's never been anything this bad. Eddie Howe said as much he hasn't experienced something this bad in his career, and I've asked him, is there going to be an inquest into it? And Eddie Howe just said no, we've just been unlucky. So whether they have, yes, they absolutely have, in terms of the length of the injuries and some of the recurring injuries, which we'll get onto. But it's just every time a player goes down. I remember Anthony Gordon went down in the first half under no contact and was clutching.
You could hear St James's Park go.
There was a groan, wasn't it?
There
And
was,
it's just
yeah.
every time there's a moment like that, it's hot in the mouth, sort of stuff, because it's just like we can't afford to lose any player at the moment. But I was just going to say before, it just makes the result all the more sweet when you win so convincingly. And this team have a knack of it, Jordan. You said before, of when the backs are against the wall at times, they seem to bring out these performances and be able to turn things round and get the sort of ball rolling again, if you like, after what was 2 disappointing defeats before the international break. And now we're going to Paris Saint-Germain, a must-not-lose game in the Champions League, with plenty of positivity, although a lack of players.
Yeah, no, I think they needed that result today. I think there was a bit of course, it was disappointing after the Bournemouth game, but as I say, you've lost a game, you talk about the injuries, it all felt a bit like doom and gloom. But I say they go to put in a result like that today against a team, as I said earlier, that everyone was dubbing as a team that were in form, and the Chelsea are back. I say Newcastle in that second half absolutely wiped the floor of them, and as I said earlier as well, it was an ideal game heading into that game on Tuesday, because look, I obviously don't know, but I'm just, from what I've watched today, I don't think that would have physically took a lot out of them. Of course, the turnaround is quick, and ideally, I think Eddie Howe mentioned it after the Arsenal ahead of the Dortmund game, where he said, I think this game's come a little bit too quick for us. And as I say, in that Dortmund game, you might think the same on Tuesday, which, because it is a quick turnaround. But as I say, I do think today was an ideal game. The second half, as I say, was a straw. So it's massive it's a massive game on Tuesday. I think you're saying must lose. I think in many ways Newcastle probably
Must
do.
not lose.
Must lose. I say that. I'm glad you picked that one up. Must not lose. They must not lose. But I think in many ways it's probably a bit of a. Is it not a must win?
Yeah, arguably, yeah. If you win your next 2 in the Champions League, you go through. If you lose any of your next 2, you're out. So it's simple. It's in Newcastle's hands to an extent, but yeah, must win to an extent, I'd say.
But they put themselves in a great position if they win, because they go ahead of PSG, don't they? And then you set up a game against AC Milan here, and you think you're coming in the back of a win against PSG, and this place will be bouncing. It'll be bouncing regardless, but to be in the initiative, if you like, or in front heading into the game would be a real added bonus. And not looking too far ahead, obviously, I know it's only round the corner, the PSG game, but I do think in many ways Newcastle have they got anything to fear PSG or the French giants, and they're really tough to beat on their home patch. But Newcastle beat them here 4-1, and I know 2 games are the same, but they've shown that they can compete, and they just need a little bit of the confidence back. So we'll just have to wait and see what unfolds on Tuesday. As you mentioned there is a limited amount of players, but I think if you put that starting 11 out against PSG on Tuesday, I think they're more than capable of winning. The only concern after that is the bench. Obviously they've managed to avoid that scenario today by getting the business done before they had to make changes. It might not be obviously as easy against PSG, because there might be a stage in the game where players begin to tire. You know, they're either level or losing, and look to the bench and they need to bring someone on. And unfortunately, there's not many options there, because by the sounds of it, Dom, I don't think there's going to be anyone back for the game on Tuesday.
No, I don't think so. Sean Longstaff potentially is
Possibly.
the only one. Joe Willock, a fresh injury blow. That was a big one today.
Huge,
match winner here last season against Chelsea. He's front of the programme. He's spoke in the programme. I pointed out to Jordan about how he's glad to be back from injury and looking to kick on, and it's just a recurrence of that Achilles problem that extended his initial injury, which was a hamstring injury, and it was almost 5 months on the sidelines for Joe Willock. And so Eddie Howe spoke about that after the game, described it as a huge blow. Doesn't know how long Joe Willock will be out, but you imagine, you were saying potentially 6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, look, I could be
ballpark figure.
Yes, but I think as an Achilles injury, they don't tend to be short term. And Eddie Howe did say as well that Joe Willock's going to see a specialist to get advice,
never a good sign.
which is never a good sign. So I'd imagine he probably does add to the list of long-term absentees, which, you know, there's, you mentioned it earlier, Don, about these injuries. It's okay picking up injuries, but it's the length of the injuries that they are picking up, and there's a lot of players now who aren't due back until the new year. I think we went through it on the pre-match video, the press conference video. We're trying to think of players that they could potentially get back in December, and I don't think it's that many. I think Harvey Barnes was mentioned as one, but again, that'll be the back end of December. Elliot Anderson, for example. I mean, there's other players in there, but there's no players due back imminently, so they've got to go with this squad until they get a few players back, and that's probably a worry moving forward, because I don't want to be too doom and gloom, but in terms of the injury situation, this might not be the worst it has been yet, because what was it, 10 games or 9 games now between now and the end of December or Christmas, whatever. It's a real struggle, and to ask for any squad in the whole world, never mind a squad that I've got 13 players missing. Yeah,
and 10 games to play over the next 31 days, which Eddie Howe wasn't
pleased
about being reminded about after the game today. He went, "Let me enjoy this win tonight, please." And Emil Kraft, that's another one. He is ill, so asked Eddie Howe about that, and he can't play on Tuesday night as well because of the Champions League. Eddie Howe was quick to remind me of that.
It's easy to forget.
But could be back for Man U. So him and Sean Longstaff are probably the only two. But in terms of Sean Longstaff's probably the only player where you look, okay, if he's fit, he gets in the starting 11. Yeah. Newcastle's starting 11 was actually quite strong today. You're looking at that and go, that's good enough to give Chelsea a game to potentially beat Chelsea. It's just the bench where you look and go, who are the players that can impact the game? And it feels, you don't want to be too negative after such a positive win, but it almost feels like not a disaster waiting to happen, but you're just wondering how long can this team keep this up, where you're naming a bench like that and it is basically 11 fit first team real quality players, and then it very quickly becomes academy players, goalkeepers and sort of fringe players really. So hopefully Newcastle can keep it going on and Eddie Howe can keep working miracles, but it just makes the results. Newcastle have got the Arsenal game last time out here at St James's Park, and the Chelsea game obviously here today, beating Man U 3-0 in the Carabao Cup. Some great wins. It just makes them all the more impressive, I think. Yeah,
it's just a shame that they can't play every game at St James's Park, because you feel like they'll probably go and beaten bar. Obviously when Manchester City and Liverpool come here, which they quite like lose to those two. I mean, in many ways I think you look, this term probably isn't right, but wins like this probably paper over a few cracks where, as I say, the cracks are waiting to burst open in terms of more injuries. But
I think we've seen the cracks as well.
Yeah, we have.
Against Bournemouth, Dortmund to an extent. So, I mean, do the paper over the cracks, but you take 3 points every day of the week. So, positive. And we'll move on to PSG, where myself, Jordan and Liam will be there. Yeah,
you'll be back, yes. We're setting off from Manchester early doors on Monday, getting to Paris, I think it's mid-morning, isn't it? Yeah. And then we'll be at the Stade de France, is that what it's called? Or the
Parc de France.
Parc de France. There's a lot of French coming out there. We'll be there from, I think it's 6 o'clock local time, to speak to Eddie Howe and Nick Pope. So Shall we do the T's and C's? Shall I have a go at the T's and
go on,
C's?
Jordan,
You do it the best in Liam Kennedy's absence, but I'll try. So, like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell to get all your latest Geordie Journos content. As I say, we'll see you in Paris on Monday.